It is finally here. We finally have balance changes, guys. Oh my gosh, it's been months. So the work in progress balance changes right now. Basically, how this video is gonna go. I made this deck right here that has 8 of the cards that are getting buffed. And then I also made a deck that has all of the cards that are getting nerfed. I put in a spell in each one, so don't worry about that. The tornado and the arrows are not getting nerfed or buffed. But this right here, this deck entirely cards that are getting some type of buff. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to go through these cards and kind of talk about it. Oh my gosh, Pack of the River is crazy. Talk about what's happening with each one, why they need a buff, and why you can kind of see in this gameplay right here, since the cards aren't obviously changed yet, that they're probably lacking a bit in some categories. So first off, let's talk about the E-Giants. The E-Giant's going to get pulled 2 more tiles, I believe. It was kind of a confusing wording when they had it in the work in progress changes. Like when you see it, it says something weird, but I think it means it's going to get pulled 2 tiles less by buildings. So basically, if you have a cannon, you have a Tesla, you place it in that far tile that you usually place it to pull the E-Giant. It's not going to pull that anymore. You have to place it kind of like it's a Goblin Giant, I'm guessing, or a regular Giant. That kind of pull radius is my guess. I think that's what it is. It was kind of confusing wording, like I said, but anyways, yeah, that's going to make the card a lot better. There's so many situations where I play a Tesla like all the way over on the other side of the map, and it single-handedly counters an E-Giant for a +3 trade. Yeah, it's just not going to happen anymore. It's also going to force you to play your Teslas, if you are playing Tesla or Cannon, whatever it is, more at the river, because you're going to give them free lightnings if you are able to, or like obviously the E-Giant's not going to pull as far across the map, so their lightning is going to be able to pair with the E-Giant even better. So I think E-Giant will actually be a pretty solid archetype in this next season if they do end up keeping this type of buff. And okay, so the next card is the Baby Dragon. Baby Dragon and Witch, we can talk about them at once. They're both getting about a half tile splash radius buff. So for the Witch, I believe it's going to be 1.5 tiles, which is, Witch has never really been a splash card, at least not for a long time, and it's kind of odd to see it, but, I'm down to see what happens with the Witch. The Witch is a very mid card right now, doesn't really get utilized ever, and it's just much too slow to do anything. So maybe giving that slight splash damage addition might make it a bit better. And then the Baby Dragon as well is, it just kind of doesn't go in anything except for Graveyard. And even Graveyard was replacing it because of the Goblin Sign and whatnot. But I think a slight splash buff to the Baby Dragon could also make it a bit better. It's going to be sort of similar to the Ice Wiz, where they both have decent splash damage now. I'm not sure how good it's going to be, but, 1.5 tiles for both the cards is pretty solid. That might even be the same as Ice Wiz if I don't know that exactly, don't quote me there, but I'm just going to E-Giant here to take out all this. I mean, this deck, even though all these cards are getting buffed, this is still not even a terrible deck. I would say the card that needed the buff most out of all of these is probably the Dark Prince, and I'm going to talk about the Dark Prince in the rest of these cards in the next match right here. So, first off, the Demolisher. The Demolisher is going to be staying alive for 1 more second. It's not really going to change it too much, I'll be completely real. Kind of a mediocre, I mean, it doesn't need to be broken. It's already an okay card. I don't think Demolisher is terrible. It just doesn't fit in the meta very well because P.E.K.K.A. is so darn good and recruits, and it kind of just doesn't do enough. It'd be really good in, like, obviously we saw it in that Drill meta where Drill was just running rampant. Demolisher was perfect for that. So I'm just going to go ahead and activate King Tower with this Tornado. Basically, I had to put a Tornado in this deck because you cannot play E-Giant without Tornado. It just does not work for obvious reasons, but okay. So that card, Demolisher, it's not going to change much. I'll be completely real. I think it might be utilized a bit more, but it's going to be a very minimal buff, I guess, if you want to call it that. And then Dark Prince, I believe, is getting a whole half tile charge speed. So it was 3.5 tiles till it charges. Now it's 3, and I believe that's similar to the Prince, or maybe just a little bit more still. I'm not really sure about that, but I've always thought the Dark Prince should charge the same tiles as the Prince. Doesn't that make sense in my head? But maybe I'm tripping. I think it's going to be pretty close to the Prince, though, if it's not the same. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see. Dark Prince is going to be a bit better in the meta and maybe even used, which is, something that they've been wanting to make happen for a bit because Dark Prince has basically been useless in this game for a while, besides, like, Giant Double Prince, really. Which is also a very rare deck that you don't really see often. So, yeah, Dark Prince buff, I'm actually excited for that. I've been saying, in my list of cards, people ask me all the time what I think needs a buff, what needs a nerf, and Dark Prince has always been on my list of cards to buff just because it's just so slow and doesn't really do anything. And it takes a lot more to get it on the tower than you would think. I know it's not a win condition, but it just doesn't charge quick enough. It gives your opponent so much time to react, and I'm glad they're doing a small buff for that charge speed. That's a perfect buff in my opinion as well. I'm going to go here and then Tornado all this in. E-Giant plus Wallbreaker. Oh, and the Evo Bats are dead. That is beautiful. That is a huge push. E-Giant, as you guys can see, I don't even, I think the problem will be E-Giant's going to be a bit too good when they do buff it. Hopefully, there's still enough P.E.K.K.A. and stuff to counteract the E-Giants. Oh, baby, I can't wait to talk about the nerfs, too. I'm going to be so excited, but I'm going to save the nerfs for when I do play the nerf deck. What have I not talked about? I haven't talked about the, did I talk about everything? Oh, the cannon, yeah, the cannon is a decent change. It's making the evolution, oh, it's not the Evo, it's not the regular, it's the Evo. It makes the evolution cannon do more damage. That's kind of it. Not too bad, not too shabby, I guess you could say. The cards not included in this deck that are still getting a buff, there is a couple. The Goblin Machine, first of all, I really don't think it's a good card for the game at all. But, they are buffing it slightly. They're making it hit like duration, how long it's shooting the rockets, and the rockets like on the map a little bit longer, which is kind of an interesting buff. And they're also buffing its HP a bit, so it's going to be an interesting buff. They are nerfing the fire rate a slight bit, to kind of counteract those two balances, just in case it was going to be too broken. So I do like that they're giving it a slight nerf as well in that department, so it's not going to be completely just like running through the game again like it did when it was released, or anything even close. I think they learned their lesson from that. That was ridiculous. Probably the most, just horrible 2 weeks of Clash Royale ever with that machine meta in Demolisher. But the machine's getting a buff. So we also have Lumberjack getting a slight rework. It's getting some more HP, and it is taking away some not hit points, rage duration time, I think is what it was. Yeah, so rage duration time, like when it pops the potion at the end, the rage spell doesn't last quite as long. To be honest, I kind of have always thought the Lumberjack rage lasts way too long anyway, so I'm glad that's getting a slight nerf as well. And but they did, I think it's going to make the card a little bit better. Lumberjack's kind of a mediocre card as well. Not sure if it needs a buff, to be honest. It might just be there's other cards that are way too good that are being utilized over it. But okay, so also we've got the Mighty Miner, which, Mighty Miner, it hasn't been good for a while, but when it was good, it was extremely good. It was not just good. So I'm not sure how I feel about a Mighty Miner buff. It is the champion. It is kind of needing one based on the Stein, the Queen, and all of those things. I'm just kind of, running the game right now. So, I can see the Mighty Miner getting a little bit of a buff. It is going to get its damage increased. I think it's going to heat up a bit quicker, if I'm not mistaken, and get more damage overall. So, Mighty Miner, slight damage buff, as well as the Mini P.E.K.K.A. Mini P.E.K.K.A, is getting a hit point, what do you call it? Like a attack buff, basically. When it swings, it does more damage. That's a good way to describe it. I'm not sure if that's a good call. Mini P.E.K.K.A is not bad at all. I don't know what the thought process was behind buffing the Mini P.E.K.K.A. It's already very good in many different decks, especially anything like Goblin Giant to Giant, even Golem. Very much beatdown decks. You could play Hog Cycle with Mini P.E.K.K.A. too, and Firecracker, that one deck that had that in that. I don't know. Mini P.E.K.K.A is a weird one for me. I personally wouldn't have buffed it, but I don't know. Also, the P.E.K.K.A is getting some type of rework. I don't even know. They've got to just nerf the P.E.K.K.A, to be honest. I'm hoping in the balance changes, when they actually fully come out, that the P.E.K.K.A is getting a slight nerf. Again, we're kind of tired of the P.E.K.K.A meta. It's getting like, man, P.E.K.K.A so often. But anyways, this is going to be an easy win right here. This was all of the cards, or not all of them, but all I could fit in the stack, that are getting a buff. And honestly, we played very good with this deck. It didn't even feel like these were cards that needed a buff too badly. But maybe I just played good with this deck or something. Oh, baby. So this is the deck I've built for cards that are getting a nerf. You guys... Yes, man, yes. Also, I did forget to talk about the recruits. The recruits are getting a buff. Yeah, you heard me. The recruits are getting a buff. I mean, what in the world? It's not a huge buff, and they are kind of reworking evolution a little bit to make the charge time a bit longer with the Evos, but man, the regular recruits, I promise you, they don't need a buff, guys. I promise you. Anyways, they're getting a buff. Nothing I can do about that. Anyways, let's hop into the nerfs. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited, bro. So first off, let's talk about the card I couldn't put in here, which is the Archer Queen. It's getting a 2-second ability deploy time nerf. So I'm gonna go Rambless Barrel like this, low-key, because I think he's kind of cooked. If he... I can arrows that too. Anyways, what am I saying? Queen is getting a 17-second ability cooldown instead of a 15. I actually love that, because there's so many times the Queen gets a second ability in single elixir. It's kind of ridiculous how easy it is to get that second ability off, especially when you just fully defend an entire Lava Hound push, Giant push, whatever the heck you are playing against, and your Queen just walks across and has its ability ready again after you just used it on defense. It's kind of insane, so maybe that will prevent a few of those situations where 1 HP Archer Queen forces out like 4 or 5 elixir and it just loses you the entire game. Definitely gonna make Royal Hog cycle worse, which I'm all for. Anyways, okay, so that, and then, oh baby, oh baby, oh baby. We got the cannon card. Yes, man, I have been begging for a cannon card nerf for months and months and months because this card is so incredibly stupidly overpowered. The range on it for 5 elixir and the DPS that it provides, as well as how much HP is on the card, is like, you would genuinely think this is a troll with what the card is at right now. But, you know, it is getting a nerf. It's getting, I believe, 8% HP nerf, which is going to change a couple interactions, make it die a bit easier, and, you know, not have it survive on 1 HP in every single situation. So even though it's not a huge nerf to the cannon card, I would like to see maybe its DPS nerfed a bit as well, to be honest with y'all. It's going to do enough to, you know, maybe prevent some people from using it, so I'm cool with that. I'm going to go barrel like this, then also Evo Skellies, by the way, because he has no login cycle. And he might be in trouble. We'll see. He's going to have to poison that. Yeah, that's really good for me. And the barrel's going to take the majority of his tower. Anyways, enough yapping about that. Next up, we have the Goblin Stein. Oh my goodness. Let's freaking go. Finally, Clash Royale. You decided you're done milking the money out of this card. All jokes aside, though, the Stein is getting a 20% damage nerf. Not damage, HP nerf. So it's going to die to Fireball, it's going to die to Poison, and that is just, yes, thank you, man, thank you. The stupid doctor is finally going to die to things and not just survive. I still think it needs a range nerf, personally. A small range nerf might do it justice and make the card actually balanced, because I think it still will be overpowered with this card, as it is, even after the nerf. But, you know, that's my opinion. I'm gonna say right now, I think the Stein's still gonna be a top, probably the best champion in the game, especially with the Archer Queen getting nerfed as well. So okay, so that's you know, cards that we want to see getting nerfed right there. Fisherman is getting a nerf as well, which I've been saying needs a nerf for a while. It's so prevalent in any type of RG, Goblin Giant, Giants, even some golem decks, just any kind of beatdown on the ground archetype. It was way too overpowered in. And it can pretty much defend anything, especially P.E.K.K.A. recently. It's been in tons of P.E.K.K.A. decks. So yeah, it's getting a slight slowdown reduction. So basically what that means is whenever it hooks something, that guy just got cooked, by the way. Whenever it hooks something, it's going to slow it down for less time. It's not just going to completely stop it in its tracks for such a long period of time like it used to. Next up on the block right here, we have Ram Rider. You know, slight 4% HP nerf. I understand they don't want to kill the Ram Rider. It's a fun card. It is an interesting card, unique. The 4% is going to be alright. I don't know if that's going to really do anything, though, if I'm going to be completely honest, to actually making the card worse, or even making it, like, any less used than it is right now, to be honest. Maybe it will, but, I mean, Ram Rider is still probably one of the best top 3 win conditions in the game right now, behind like maybe Goblin Giants. I guess you could say Mortar Evo, which didn't get nerfed at all, but Cannon Card got nerfed and Stein. So and then, you know, Drill's solid as well. P.E.K.K.A, Goblin Giant, I mean, whatever you want to call an evolution at this, or I mean a win condition, because people play P.E.K.K.As at the river, and I call that a win condition at this point. But yeah, Ram Rider slight nerf, nothing too crazy. They're not going to make the card too crazy. Nice tornado by my opponent right there. Alright, so there's that, and then there's also the Evolution Barrel, which, you know, holy cow, I was so happy when I saw this nerf. I was so happy when I saw Cannon Card, Fisherman, Evo Barrel, Ram Rider, and Stein on that list. I was like, dude, yes, man, please, finally. And then this change is interesting. So listen, it is 1 second to where you're gonna see the barrel, like basically see which barrel is fake and which isn't when it's flying, I believe is what it is. And that is a great change. And I will tell you why. It is so incredibly difficult to defend the Evo Barrel because you don't know which one is coming at. Even if you know which lane it's coming at, it's still going to get infinite value. But that's not the point. The point is you're always going to have to guess when you don't see this barrel and it's not obvious. You know, you can't tell which lane it's on. You just don't know. You have to kind of predict off of game sense, but, you know, sometimes that doesn't even work. Sometimes you have to just take a guess because both your towers are at around the same range. So I'm so happy they're doing this nerf to the card. I hate this card, and I've always hated Evo Barrel because it just doesn't make sense for the game, in my opinion. But anyways, I'm happy about that one. And then we have, something I'm kind of excited about a little bit. I can't even lie. We have Duchess getting a buff. So it's going to have 1 more dagger in its tower, which is decent. You know, it's nothing too crazy. Also, this P.E.K.K.A needs to die. Holy cow. But nothing too crazy, but, you know, it is going to make Duchess a bit better, and I think Duchess is the worst tower in the game easily, so I'm glad that's getting a slight buff. Okay, I got to Stein this, hold up. I think that's going to kill. I forgot to talk about Duchess in the buffs, that's why I'm talking about it now, because I have bad memory. Oh, also, Evo Skellies are getting a slight nerf. instead of the 4 skeletons, you actually only get 3 skellies, which is kind of interesting. It makes it the same as the regular skellies, I guess. So it makes it, it makes sense in my head, but it might make the evolution a slight bit, a significant amount worse. I've seen a lot of people actually saying, wow, Evo skellies are going to do absolutely nothing now, and we'll see if they're right. And the last 2 changes we have right here are the evolution Ice Spirit, which is going to only freeze twice instead of 3 times, and but technically they put it as a buff. So, or did they say nerf? I don't even know. It was kind of a rework, I think. Not really one or the other. You basically get only 2 freezes, but you get like 160 or something damage, which is insane for a 1 elixir card. To be honest, it's almost as much as a Fire Spirit, I believe. And obviously it has the freeze effect as well. So that's going to make that card pretty, interesting. It already is very good. I think they wanted to make it less defensive. That's why they did this, which makes sense, in my head. I'm going to try and activate King Tower with this Fisherman, by the way. Hopefully we can grab that Bowler off rip right here. Get the King Tower active. Beautiful. And then the last card, which is already in the game actually right now. I think they accidentally added it in one of the balances. Somehow it got put in the game. But yeah, we got the Evo Bomber, and it's only bouncing once, which is a great addition. Bomber for 2 elixirs should never, ever, ever get 500-600 damage in one bounce on your tower. It's absolutely crazy that was even a thing in the game in the first place. So they've made the Bomber evolution very balanced with this change, I think. It's already, decently balanced, definitely worse than it was when it was one cycle, I mean. And I can see the vision. I'm proud of the balance change team. We have a lot of good people on there now, like especially Donald on there, who is like, I don't even know if he's the head person on it, but he seems to be always the one giving the best suggestions and figuring out what's going on in the game with a lot of the pro players and content creators and streamers as well, and what needs to be changed. So he also listens to feedback and stuff like that. So I think we're in good hands with balance changes going into the future. I'm excited for it. We still do need a few. I would say I think we can all agree that P.E.K.K.A needs a slight nerf again instead of a rework, just to kind of get it out of the meta. It's been so, not even out of the meta, just get it to stop dominating the meta. It's been so prevalent, especially with the Chef Tower. I know I've seen a lot of people actually asking for a Chef Tower nerf, and I don't think it needs a nerf at all. I think it's fine how it is. The P.E.K.K.A is just too good, and you're not really going to see Chef dominate the game and take over the entire game, just because it doesn't fit into a lot of people's playstyle, number 1, and number 2, you have to kind of commit to a beatdown deck if you are going to play Chef, or you can play like a fun deck like Expo Queen with it, but realistically, is that going to be amazing with it? No. Am I going to play it for fun? Yeah, of course, bro. That's Clash Royale. Like, at the end of the day, this game is meant to be fun. And think about how hard it is. We're all hard on the balanced team specifically because of cards that are overpowered. We hate seeing them, and we hate facing them over and over, especially me, Cannon Cart, Stein, Fisherman, Ram Rider, Evo Barrel. Like, all these cards are just ridiculously broken, and they're getting balanced because they need balance, bro. And they've needed balance for a while. Even though it took a long time, they at least got the majority of these changes right. So we do have to give them some credits for that. I'm just going to pop my ability right here to kind of clean up the map. But yeah, credit where credit's due. Even though, we'd like to see things happen quicker, especially me. I'm an impatient person. I'm sure y'all are all impatient people. It's just how it is. This guy's kind of funny. He's a silly goose. But yeah, okay, so we're going to get some hits right there. No, we're not going to get any damage. I just want to win this game. Ram Rider on tower. That one goblin in the back's getting a ton of hits as well. I basically just need, like, any type of damage, and I should win. But yeah, what do you guys think about the balances? I want to hear, he's giving up. I want to hear all y'all's opinions in the comments. Let me know what you think is missing or what they should do next. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed, and enjoy the Butch clip. Peace.